Did you know? Majora's Mask's concept of time recurring with varying results came from the German film Run Lola Run. The movie is broken into 3 story segments that all start the same way, but develop differently over time. Nintendo developer Yoshiaki Koizumi originally used this idea to develop a board game-like project themed around cops and robbers. The player would have 7 days to catch a robber in a world that was small in scope, but full to the brim with content. Koizumi's game was ultimately cancelled, and its core mechanic was passed on to Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask also started with a 7-day cycle. This was reduced to 3 days, so players didn't have to wait around for or keep track of too many in-game events. The change was also made due to the massive workload. Making 7 days of content would push the team far beyond their 1-year development deadline. Nintendo's original plan was to develop a remixed version of Ocarina of Time for the Nintendo 64 disk drive, but Zelda series developer Eiji Aonuma didn't want to rework the game. He'd spent years making what he thought were the perfect Zelda dungeons in Ocarina of Time. He didn't want to change them, so he requested to start work on a new Zelda game instead. Aonuma's request was approved, but only under the condition that he complete the game in a single year. The stress of creating an entire game in such a short period of time gave Aonuma nightmares. In an Iwata Asks interview, Aonuma recalled a dream where he was chased by Deku. I was thinking about an event for the Deku, and had been trying to figure out what to do with it. I thought of it at home, and Deku's appeared in my dream. I woke up screaming. The next day, scene director Takumi Kawagoe showed Aonuma a cutscene he'd been working on. Kawagoe's cutscene shocked Aonuma, as it was exactly like his Deku nightmare. Aonuma wasn't the only one dreaming about the game. The idea to have the moon crashing into Termina as the main threat came from one of Yoshiaki Koizumi's daydreams. He dreamt about what would happen if the moon suddenly started falling to Earth, and how people would react. Speaking of which, the moon didn't always have a face. Early builds of the game show a faceless moon, suggesting it remained featureless for some time. Even the game's promotional art depicts the moon without a face. Masks were chosen as the focal point for the game because Nintendo believed the full potential of the masks wasn't realized in Ocarina of Time. The developers decided to give Link new abilities through wearing the masks rather than using items, and decided to go with Deku, Goron, and Zora versions of Link to cover air, land, and water. Each of the masks was given a core storyline, and non-playable characters would interact differently with each mask. Although these characters react differently to each iteration of Link, they don't react to the actual transformation process. These transformations were visually intense, so it didn't make sense for non-playable characters to not acknowledge Link transforming in front of them. In response to this, Nintendo tried making the transformations in Twilight Princess more realistic. They made Link unable to transform in front of others to avoid the issue altogether, but the mechanic forced players to constantly find vacant spots in the overworld, so it was scrapped to make the game less annoying. The world of Termina got its name from the word terminal. However, the name doesn't relate to mortality. It relates to Termina being a hub. In Aonuma's own words, as it means a place where people come and go, terminal became Termina. The name Majora is romanized as Mujura in the Japanese game. Mujura is a mixing of artist Takaya Imamura's last name and Jumanji. Someone at Nintendo was clearly a fan of the Robin Williams movie. The late Williams himself was actually a fan of Zelda, and even named his daughter after the series. Majora's Mask has another potential reference, this time concerning the Happy Mask Salesman. It's possible the Mask Salesman is based on the creator of Zelda, Shigeru Miyamoto. In the game, the Mask Salesman comes across as an omnipotent force, pulling strings behind the scenes. He even carries a mask that resembles Mario, who Miyamoto also created. Miyamoto also arguably has a physical resemblance to the character. Another mask in the Mask Salesman's collection greatly resembles the Mirror Shield. The mask in fact came first, and its design influenced the creation of the Mirror Shield. According to Aonuma, when the Mirror Shield was being designed, we wanted to have some kind of pattern for the reflection. We couldn't make it like the shield from Ocarina of Time, as the design is too detailed and wouldn't fit the image of this game. But the Happy Mask Salesman is carrying a mask that has a face of distress, so wouldn't it be interesting willing to use that design? Included in Majora's Mask are 3 unused variations of a young Link mask. Curiously, they're placed alongside the objects for Skull Kid, suggesting he was planned to wear them. It's even possible to dress Skull Kid in the masks by changing minor values in the game's code. In an early trailer for the game, there's also an unused mask resembling adult Link from Ocarina of Time. It's thought this mask would have turned young Link into adult Link, allowing him to use items from future segments of Ocarina of Time. There's no demonstration of Link transforming with the mask, but concept art of an adult Majora's Mask Link appears in the Hyrule Historia. The mask was removed from the final game, and Link was given adult Link's items. It's likely the adult mask was replaced with the Fierce Deity's mask. It's often questioned where the Fierce Deity's mask came from, as the main transformation masks are based on deceased characters. In an interview with Game Informer, Aonuma said the memories of the people of Termina are within the Fierce Deity's mask. In the Japanese game, the Fierce Deity is a Buddhist Kishin. These deities take on wrathful and unsettling forms to lead individuals to enlightenment. They're often inverse manifestations of peaceful figures, symbolizing the vices of man and the effort it takes to vanquish evil. The Fierce Deity's mask can only be bought by trading 20 of the masks Link acquired from the residents of Termina, and is attained just before the final boss battle with the evil entity Majora. Because of this, it's likely the mask symbolizes the struggle of the game's characters, and is a physical manifestation of their efforts to overcome evil. As Kishin take the negative form of the peaceful beings, this could be why Link becomes a savage-looking version of himself when wearing the mask. There are some other strange occurrences in Majora's Mask. The Romani Ranch aliens were inspired by a booming interest in supposed UFO-related cattle mutilations in Japan. This is also the reason the game has a ranch in the first place. The aliens that attack the ranch during the first night are based on the Flatwoods monster, a monster that was very popular in the 1950s and 60s. The Anju and Kafei wedding was based on events that took place in August 1998, where North Korea launched Taepodong missiles over Japan. Several Zelda developers were attending a wedding of a staff member at the time, and acknowledged the strange circumstance that missiles could destroy everything in any moment. They thought the setting would fit well in Termina, as Termina's residents also had a force of destruction looming over them. Before you go, we'd like for you to vote on what you want to see covered in the future, a video on Wind Waker or a video on Twilight Princess. You can also vote by leaving a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe for more facts and trivia. And if you want to watch even more Zelda content over on my channel, I've made a video on Ocarina of Time.